How's it going, folks? So it's been another month. The month of April has come and gone, and so here I'm going to be giving you my picks for the best albums of April 2023. But first and foremost, uh, every song, not every song, but the songs that I listened to that released in the month of April that I didn't do a reaction to and also kind of stood out to me in a way, I've put all of those songs down in the description below, along with the link to the original song, the music video, the lyric video, what have you. So anything that I listen to off channel that, again, I enjoyed it or found noteworthy in some way or another, I've listed all of that down in the description below, so you guys can go see if there's something you missed, go check that stuff out, and all of that good stuff. Again, nothing that I did a reaction to, because you could just look at my reactions to see what songs I did a reaction to. But anything off channel I found noteworthy, go check it out. It's in the description below. And all of the albums that I listened to, every single one that I listened to that dropped in the month of April, I've also put all of those albums down in the description below. And so you can go see what all did I listen to, what all was a contender, what's the pool that I was pulling from to determine the top five. So you can see every album that I listened to in the description below. Again, you go explore, see if there's something that looks cool to you or that you missed, and go check out the album. So yeah, that's everything there. And as far as albums go, I don't consider live albums or reissues or remasters or EPs, things like that, because I listen to so many full-length albums that I just don't have time to listen to all that other kind. So it has to be a new, original, full-length album to be considered. So yeah, with all of that out of the way, and again, I cover power metal, symphonic metal, melodic rock, so you can expect all those categories to kind of be contenders in there. Anywho, so with all of that out of the way, it's time to tell you my top five favorite albums of April 2023 in no particular order. First up, we have Against Myself with Tides of Insanity, a really, really cool kind of symphonic progressive metal album that there's a lot to it. It's very, very dynamic. It's the arrangements, the structure of the songs is really well done. The songwriting, the vocals are amazing, the musicianship is stellar, but the thing that really stood out to me from this album is just how dynamic it is. It really stood out to me just with, there's a lot of power in the songs, and even just in the songwriting itself, there's just a lot of power in that. So I love the diversity of the album. Again, there's some progressive elements in there, there's some neat dynamic shifts, and a lot at play. So it's a really, really, really cool album that I enjoyed a lot. Next up, we have Wild Steel with Age of Steel. This one came as a bit of a surprise to me. I actually did an album thoughts video on this one, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts about this album, you can go check that out. But this is a power metal album through and through, very reminiscent, I would say, of the 2000s style and 2000s era of power metal. Great melodies, great keyboard work and guitars, killer vocals. And this is one that I urge all power metal fans not to miss, because I couldn't find much on this band as far as online presence or social media presence. This album kind of just dropped, and it's like, there it is, So yeah, don't miss this, especially if you just love some good old-fashioned power metal, 2000s era power metal. It does that very, very well. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. Next up, we have Ashrain with the album Requiem Reloaded. This is another one that kind of came out of nowhere, and I believe it's a, if I'm not mistaken, it's a project kind of created by one individual with that incorporates a lot of different musicians and all that kind of together. Again, as instead of it being kind of like just a solid lineup, it's more of a project that involves a lot of different folks, and it's just a really, really well done power metal album. Melodic power metal, I would say, but there's even hints at times of almost like a melodic hard rock fused with a power metal style. Very, very catchy, very melodic. Again, great musicianship, killer vocals, and this one is just a lot of fun. I just really, really enjoyed it. Next up, and I'm sorry if I butchered the name of this artist, but Isilil, and with the album Moonbow Genesis. This one, I would say, is predominantly symphonic metal as far as genre goes, but it also plays with a lot of other styles. It infuses a lot of different elements into the sound, which really, really helps set it apart. There's a little bit of folk in there, and some it gets heavier at times, and other times it's more atmospheric. And like I said, there's just a lot at play, but the vocals are really well done, and the songwriting, the musicianship is really solid, and it's kind of an experience, this album. Every time I listened to it, I was really drawn in kind of to the world, to the sound, an atmosphere that it's creating, and it really, really is something that I highly recommend. Again, predominantly, if I had to say, it's symphonic metal, but there's a lot of different elements infused into it that create something that sounds quite fresh, and I enjoyed it a lot. And lastly, we have Elvenking with Reader of the Runes, Rapture. What can I say? It's Elvenking, and this was a highly anticipated album for me, and it did not disappoint. Just a really powerful power metal album. Again, with hints, this one also has some hints of folk in there, but anyone who's familiar with Elvenking, you kind of know their style. But it's another solid entry in their discography with a good amount of variety and some really neat dynamics, especially in certain songs. And it's just powerful and melodic and quite memorable. And like I said, they really just keep the quality up, even though they've been around for a good while now. So I really, really enjoyed that. So there's my top 5 picks for best albums of April 2023. And I meant to say this before, but this was kind of an interesting month, April was, because there was a lot of variety in the month, a lot of variety in styles and like genre, just a lot of diversity in the albums released in the month, and that made it especially difficult for me to try to determine and narrow down my top picks because of that diversity. It makes it difficult sometimes when you're trying to compare one style to another. It's just tough. So this was a particularly difficult month for me to determine. But here we are. Those are my top 5 picks. And but as you all know, it just like the Highlander, there can be only one. So my number 1 pick for best album of April 2023 is Ashrain with Requiem Reloaded. This was the album that I found myself going back to the most. It's just really, I feel like, the most consistent, the most complete album in there, and it's some really solid power metal. Again, a lot of memorable songs, a lot of great energy, great choruses, great melodies. Like I've said before, it just has a very memorable aspect to it, and the songwriting is really well done. There's a nice array of, it doesn't just feel very samey from beginning to end. There's a lot of interesting things all the way throughout. It just keeps it feeling fresh every time I go back and listen to it. You know, the whole album from beginning to end, it just feels nice and fresh all the way through. And like I said, I just feel like this is the most consistent from beginning to end, and the one I kept going back to the most. And it's as simple as that. You know, that's my pick for the best album of April 2023. Ashrain with Requiem Reloaded. Really, really enjoyed that. Do not miss it. So there you have it. Those are my picks, and I'd love to hear what y'all were digging, what y'all were listening to in April. So let me know your favorite albums that you were listening to of April, because like I said, I love seeing what everybody was enjoying. We all have different tastes and opinions, so I just love seeing where all of you folks stand as far as that goes. And thank you all so much for tuning in. I sure do appreciate you, and I'll catch you all next time. Ranger.